And it is 3 o'clock. Welcome, everyone. This is our Governor's Council on Women and Girls meeting for July 1st. And we're very happy to be back at our legislative office building. The legislators have made themselves scarce because the session has ended. So it's very peaceful and quiet here, and we're happy to be here. So greetings to everyone. It's nice to see all of you in person and those of you on Zoom. So I want to introduce our Vice Chair, DCF Commissioner Jody Hill-Lilly, for a couple of welcoming remarks.
Well, good afternoon and happy July. That came fast. We're so excited to be meeting with you all and to have this opportunity. And to the LG's comments earlier, it feels different in this building because it was so many months of session, and we're glad that it's over, and we're proud of the work that has been achieved throughout the session. And we're looking forward to hearing about the impact of some of that legislation and a lot of the work that is under development as a result of that legislative session in the months to come. But today we are really excited about the agenda so that you can hear about the state agency's opportunity plans and what we're doing in Connecticut to make it a very attractive place to live, work, live, and thrive and raise your children. So I'm happy to welcome you all and encourage you to listen attentively and ask questions. We like the conversations to be bi-directional, so please make sure that you unmute and share with us and raise your hand if you're in the building with us.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Hill-Lilly. So again, warm welcome to all of our commissioners, our deputies, directors, and designees, and all of our friends and steering committee members. We appreciate your taking the time to be here with us. And we have one presentation for today, and it's fantastic that we have her because I think it says a lot about our state that we have a Chief Opportunity Officer, and her name is Mariana Montero. And she, again, is our Chief Opportunity Officer. We're very excited about this position because the very best diverse talent is important to Governor Lamont and I. And so I will say that we're very proud of the fact that half of our commissioners are women, a third are people of color, and I think it's that talent and that diverse backgrounds that are brought to our government got us through COVID very safely because all voices were at the table, and we continue to make that a very strong priority for our state. And I'll also say our judiciary is very diverse. Half of our appointees have been women and half have been people of color. We're very proud of the fact that when people in Connecticut walk into a courtroom, they see our state and the judge that is presiding. So with that, we're going to hear from Mariana, and there is a handout that was disseminated prior to the meeting. But if you need one, you can go see Tracy Apuku. You can send her a message if you're on Zoom, or you can go visit her over to the right, and she'd be happy to send that to you. And finally, you're going to hear from our subcommittees. We'll have some updates and quick housekeeping matter before we get started. We're going to be looking at the chat and monitoring for any questions. So if you're present virtually and you want to speak, just raise your hand. And if you're on Zoom, use the hand raising feature. Let's see. And at this time, we want to just take a moment to welcome our new members. And we will do some introductions. So do we have any new folks here today who are with us? Okay, Tracy, any on Zoom? Any new folks? All right. Okay. And let's see. All right. So with that, we are going to get started. So Mariana, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. You've been very busy meeting with all of our agency leaders and the governor and I, and we're very excited to hear your presentation. So you have the floor.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, and thank you all of you for having me today. Thank you, Commissioner, as well. And as the Lieutenant Governor has said, I've been very busy and busy happy because in the midst of all the environment that we are in, which really feels like a swirl of change, I find stable operations in the state, right? A firm yet gentle governance in place that allows us to be creative yet very focused on the mission. So I have a few pages and we're going to go along, but please feel free to ask me any questions. I'm here for all of us to co-create the future of the state and build on the strength that we already have.
And Mariana, would you let folks know what background you bring? Because I think it's important for people to know some of the private sector things that you have done before we snagged you into the public sector.
Certainly. So I'm originally from Argentina. I have to say, a proud American. I have chosen to be American. I love this country. I have tons of respect for it. And I'm a lawyer, and I recreated myself as a human resources professional in the United States. And I have more than 25 years of corporate America experience. Worked 20 years in General Electric in the commercial side of the house, and had the opportunity to experience as well the defense industry. So my most recent employer has been Lockheed Martin. Before Lockheed Martin, I worked in Raytheon Technologies and in Otis. You may have heard about UTC and the merge with Raytheon. So I've been, blessed to work in these great companies, and which, quite frankly, I think helped me to be closer and prepared to work with all of you as I experience firsthand what it means to manage through the, I could say, the through sides of the aisle, right? And how do we have to really strike some common ground to propel, progress forward? So I'm very honored to be here, and in some regard, coming back to state function and be a servant, a public servant, is what I started to do when I started as a lawyer, as a public prosecutor back in my country. So I'm very honored, grateful, and excited about working with all of you. Thank you. All right, well, so let's get started. Again, these are just simply slides to focus the attention, but as I say, feel free to strike a conversation and a dialogue, as the Lieutenant Governor says. Our first slide shows us a little bit of the environment I'm stepping in. If we can please go to the next slide. The governor, the Lieutenant Governor, has the vision of really preserving fairness in the state. And early in 2024, there was this executive order that mandated the creation of the Opportunity Office. There is a very clear vision. There are mainly three components of it. One is the mandate to support our agencies and departments to create what we call opportunity plans. Secondly, we're mandated to assess our policies, practices, and procedures for fairness. And the third one is develop a statewide training that is, again, related to make our state the place to work, the place to live, and the place to thrive. There is a strange looking figure on one of the sides of the slide that really tried to portray the situation we're in, and borrowing some comments and concept from the military. We call this VUCA, which is an environment where there is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Yet, we need to move forward with a clear purpose.
I'll just say that maybe that is the federal level, but in the state of Connecticut, we have a very stable, compassionate environment, and definitely steady. So I'll just say that that is not the Connecticut environment, but there is that federal overlay. Just saying.
That is correct, right? So we're talking about I could say the bigger picture, right? And you can, put the line in the even global aspect of it, right? But sure enough, the good news is we do have very stable operations and purpose, right, in the state. As we move forward to the next slide, so given the circumstances and the fact, if we can move to the next one, yes, we designed a process to help us truly gel into these plans. That is the first priority we have in these executive orders. We started really anchoring our attention on the principles, and as you know, and here you can see, the principle of who she or he who transplanted still sustain, right? Which means really this is the state of welcoming people, of truly embracing diversity, of thought, of wills, and make things happen for the longer term. So that is really important because it allows us to listen with that particular angle. Part of the process has been to consult with the governor, the lieutenant governor, and many stakeholders, including, of course, our commissioners that overemphasize not only the aspect of being a service provider as a state, but the importance of really treating our people well, right? So I cannot say more about that because I'm very proud to be surrounded by commissioners that pay attention to our people as much as pay attention to us as service providers. Moving into an ongoing complementary dialogue, and this is the part of co-creation where I invite all of you to be part of the process, right? This is an evolving product, so to speak, and I can tell you after multiple conversations, the program is evolving and changing and adapted, particularly because if we look for, the point number 4 in the process is we're continuously monitoring the federal landscape and making sure that we are responsive and not reactive to the changes. This allows us finally to really frame what we need to do and stabilize the approach that we want to take in a way that is, again, standardized across the state and account for the multiplicity of profiles of our agencies and residents we serve. So let me move to the next slide. What you see here is the frame that we settled to embrace in this stage. So when you listen closely to our leaders speaking, both in the legislative as well as Lieutenant Governor, our governor, there is clearly different ways of referring to the state itself, right? We are an employer, right? And we want to be an employer of choice, and we compete with multiple corporations and different opportunities. We are, for the most part, a service provider. And as such, if you think about it, we have almost a monopoly unless we do what we do well in the state, that is listen to the residents, right? Because not only we provide the services, but also we regulate those services, right? So very important for us to keep that role um, in the focus of attention. But we're also an engine of growth. We can, and we do, create the conducive environment for businesses to grow, for small corporations to grow, for family-based and minority-owned businesses to truly contribute to the economy. So we see that inclusivity really cut across the 3 pillars of our state and the different roles that we have. And we decide to really define, diversity as our way to tap into the excellency of every community, right? So we aspire to hire and retain the best people that exist within Connecticut. We also decide to refer to our culture in a way that speaks about respect, speaks about collaboration, and speaks about productivity. And that is really another way of saying we really aspire and have an inclusive culture in the state. This is extremely important as an employer. And let me for a second digress on my corporate life. You can really have a productive workforce, a workforce that serves the client well if you don't treat your workforce well, right? So it's really imperative not only to have that great talent, to retain them, but also allow them to contribute in a safe environment, an environment where people feel accepted and respected, that they belong. So this is important because as we progress in the narrative of what we're doing, you will see that we will ask every agency to think as an employer, what is it that they want to do as an employer for their people? I will be remiss if I don't say that this is the basis that allows us to thrive as a service provider, right? If you don't treat your people well, people don't treat the clients well, right? And as a service provider, we decided to use the lenses of opportunities in a way that is standardized across the state. And we're using what you may have heard about, the North Stars, that both the governor and the lieutenant governor often refer in their speeches, right? So we talk about access to opportunity first. We talk about affordability second. And I add a third one, Lieutenant Governor, forgive me, but you speak about affordability, but also accountability, and so does the governor, right? So yeah. I really want us to embrace these three principles. Two of them named as North Star, the third one comes with the territory, so to speak. So when we look at ourselves as a service provider, we want to reflect those principles. And we ask every single agency to ask three fundamental questions. When we think about access to opportunity, and we want to use those lenses, we say, agency, who is your customer first? Secondly, who is your most vulnerable customer? And please note that we're not really making an exception for a particular community. We're servicing all, right? So that is the very first point. The second one is we are called to remove barriers, right? And some of the barriers are truly external to us in the moment, right? But we have the right, the obligation, and the duty to remove them. Starting internally, as we discussed before, Lieutenant Governor saying, hey, we can do better as an organization, we should, right? Can we simplify our processes to serve better our residents? Yes, we can. Let's do it, right? In turn, also, of course, accounting for discrepancies and disparities that history brings to us, right? That we know we have to address, tied to racism and sexism. And so, sometimes, and I would say situations that have been created for the longest time, and we have to really continue to sustain the attention on those structural problems that we have. And the third question that we ask is, do we meet our residents and customer where our residents are and need us to meet them, right? So it's really a three-part question that every agency is going through as they create their plan. Do you know your customer, which is the most vulnerable? Which barriers are you removing internally first, externally secondly, and third, do you reach your residents where they are, which is a version of outreach, if you will. Now, we do that for residents, people, right, families, but we also do that for legal entities, whether it's a small business, whether it's a family-owned business, minority-owned business, NGO that partner with us, people from the community that help us out. And so we also like to think with the same lenses as a growth partner, right? Are we there to support that small entrepreneur that is starting their business, right, with the support they need, right? Do we meet them where they are? And this brings us a lot of opportunities from culturally meeting the people through the languages that they understand the most. For example, being sure that we have accessible web pages for people to understand how to fill the forms to create your own, perhaps, LLC. And this really, again, is to some extent the way that we converge would be the best approach to have, because it creates, as you can see, the container of the programs for the agencies, but not the content itself, right? This really is, I would say, a minimalistic approach, simple in the surface, complex in the development of those. I will be remiss if I don't say that our programs are contained, of course, in the basis of upholding our civil rights and our constitutional rights. And as we know that we have guardians of those. They're not necessarily included in the programs that we are running because they're, again, taken care through different opportunities that we have in the state. Our, Attorney General, and of course, CHRO, and the EEO officers that we have. So the contextual environment we're in is also important, right? So this, as I say, has been the model that we decided to embrace in the state. But let me move forward to what we would say a little bit of that strange-looking figure at the beginning, right? When we look outside the state, we like to think about us pursuing the path without any interruption, as you can see, right? There is the path forward to the top. But also, you can see a bar that denote a continuum between deferring and accepting every single request from our federal government, or continue with the status quo in a way that we're used to work, right? So this is, again, this tension between moving to one extreme or staying, I could say, in a stage of status quo. In this continuum, right, you can position yourself in different places, not without paying attention to that steep slope of this mountain that signifies the fact that there is a slippery slope, right? In the one hand, if you stretch yourself too much to one extreme, you may be possibly losing trust among some of your constituencies. If you do or overdo the really staying in the status quo in the way that we have been working for the last few years, we may potentially lose the opportunity to serve the people we care the most because of the inability to harness the support of federal funding. So what you see underneath that mountain is really an attempt to display how our different agencies face different levels of specificity in terms of the funding they may receive, right? So some of us may be heavily supported by federal government funding, some others may not. Therefore, the takeaway from this page, if you will, is we have a common environment that is, set for us, so to speak. We do have a very specificity situation based on each agency profile, yet we're one state, yet we have a clear purpose in mind. So what we decided to do with our commissioners and our governor and lieutenant governors is truly to strike a balance between having a pragmatic response, not a reaction, right? Reaction means you just mechanically react, right, to a stimuli. We want to be thoughtful about it, and that's what we're doing continuously. But also, we want to create an opportunity for us to foster strategic shift, right? This is not about cosmetic change of terminology, as some people may think. This is truly the opportunity for us to look at ourselves and say, hey, how can we do better? How do we harness the power of what we have achieved, right, and propel that forward? So we really want to have that mindset of being flexible and adaptive, yet not losing our North Stars, but also having the opportunity to harness that strategic opportunity in front of us. If we move to the next slide, this is pretty much the way we describe the approach. We want to be strategic in terms of focusing on outcomes, making sure that we start measuring ourselves, and that is a dimension of accountability that we are making real, right? I mean, simply making sure that we have a similar approach in the way we conceptualize outcomes in different agencies. We are embracing, to get organized, this idea of we play a role as an employer, as a service provider, as a growth partner. We have flexibility, as I say. We don't get to tell, right, the agencies from our office what to do. Our agencies are the experts on the needs of our community, and they decide what their focus should be. But then it's pragmatic, right? It's responsive. We are continuously supporting each other, whether it's in the way we communicate. We really intentionally do not focus on the wording or terminology, but in the work that goes behind what each agency does. And of course, and this is a side effect of the current situation and really harnessing the power of the community that already exists, this gets us closer because we're connecting with each other and we're being creative using, again, the resources that we have available at the moment, making sure we risk abate to serve our residents. If we go to the next slide, please. So I'm very glad to report to you that as we speak this morning, I was just checking on the submission of all our agencies. We do have 100% fulfilling of the plans, right? Which is, quite frankly, when I started this role, this was 6 months ago, I thought was pretty much impossible. But our commissioners have proved me wrong, and we achieved and we arrived. And as I have shared with you, this is pretty much the way we translate the must-have of those programs. You know, the fundamental questions that come with access to opportunity, and again, the additional layers of affordability and accountability in place. So some of the things that we're doing is making sure that what each agency decides to do is not one-off, is not sitting on the side or in the corner of this presentation or simply, the flavor of the month or the year, right? It's truly integrated with our planning. And because of that, we start with the budget. We ask agencies to focus only on the things that they have budget to focus on. There is self-check-ins, so there is ultimate accountability and visibility through scorecards for our agencies. And they do report, and they will report their results in the annual digest, right? So we're trying not to create more busy work. We don't want to create additional burden, but simply utilizing the channels that exist today. So the annual digest, in case you're not familiar with, but every agency reports a status report for the year before to Department of Administrative Services, and that is publicly available for people to see how each agency delivers. The other thing that we're doing in terms of accountability is setting a metric. So each agency decided what to focus their attention on and what is the baseline or what is the metric, taking a picture of the status today, and also committing for a good faith improvement or process enhancement for year 1 and year 2, right? Again, these are entirely decided by each agency. And then there is the so-called self-check-ins. People will report where they are in the process in a way that we're using also artificial intelligence to harness the power of scorecards and clear and transparent reporting so that, our governor can see where everybody stands.
So can I just ask you this? Because
Yeah.
I know that when I was the Secretary of the State and other commissioners have this as well, all of our agencies had to report to CHRO, and CHRO had a whole list of goals for our agency that, we had to hire people from particular backgrounds for the positions that we had open. There were hiring goals. Okay. And we always, and when I was Secretary of the State, we made that a priority, and we always met them. So agency leaders are probably looking at this and saying, well, how is what you're envisioning different than what CHRO says that we have to do? Because to me, when you're an HR person, right? And that was always a big part of our HR.
Thank you. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. If we can go to slide number 4, Tracy, please. So what you're referring to, Lieutenant Governor, is precisely what is known as the traditional domain of diversity, equity, and inclusion as an employer, right? So
I was waiting for that to come up. Okay, go ahead.
So, and quite frankly, therefore, I have to confess my stretch to learn the service provider side of the state, right? Because I'm very accustomed to work as an employer, right? Being myself human resources. So what happened is the plan has expanded tremendously, right? First of all, representation per se, this is the percentage of individuals that we have reflecting the community we serve, right? That is the domain of CHRO, right? That is governed by affirmative action. That is taken care of, as you say, in perfect shape, right? We have a strong team that continue to push, right, in that direction. There is also, as we say, the defense of our civil rights, right? So all the agents have, equal employment opportunity officers that are really the guardians of fairness, if you will, in processes. This plan is looking into the opportunity of it, right? So we could be talking about very specific items of interest. For example, succession planning. Some of our commissioners say, we want to truly drive, right, the attention on development of internal talent to be potential commissioners in the future, right? That is not necessarily um, display, right, in an affirmative action plan, not necessarily, right? Or we may want to build a pipeline of people for years to come. We have, for example, some interesting programs in our Department of Environmental, where we are tapping into high schoolers, right? I mean, we're not necessarily ready to hire them as full-time, but we're really planting the seed of greatness early on, right? So they're not necessarily, included in some good faith planning in affirmative actions, right? We may be in the culture side, right, which is the most intangible. We may not be necessarily measuring how do we feel in terms of inclusive environment, respect or psychological safety. And there are some agencies that decided to pulse their people to say, hey, can we do something better for you, right? And so all those aspects that sometimes are intangibles are not tied strictly to representation are captured in this plan, right? So, and that is the very first pillar, to be really transparent. The epicenter of action and attention right now is, as a service provider, how do we reach our residents, right? And how do we serve them? So as I say, I personally have stretched myself learning tons from our agencies to understand what do we do. I was just talking just a minute before with our veterans, and how do we serve them, right? What do they need? And this is a different, I could say, hat that we use as a state, right? So it's, again, it's not either or, they're complementary function, if you will, and the representation itself is taken care of through affirmative action.
So from the service provider perspective, because I think this is really important, it's not just choosing the employees, that's one thing, but from the service provider perspective, how are we reaching the people that need the services?
Correct.
Because we have urban, suburban, rural, we have all kinds of different communities across our state that need attention and service provision. So that is also something that you're envisioning in these opportunity plans, because it's not just opportunity for those who would like to work for the state, but it is the opportunity of the people of Connecticut to take advantage of all of the many services that we provide, whether it's transportation, small business assistance, healthcare, what have
Exactly.
you. Okay.
Exactly. I can perhaps, Lieutenant Governor, give an example to illustrate, some of the things how we're thinking about this. One of the most, I think, interesting plans that I'm reviewing lately, because of the vulnerability and sometimes the forgotten population of our residents, is working with our Department of Corrections, right? And so we're looking at our incarcerated talent and figuring how do we support them, right? Sadly, some of the statistics indicate that 57% of our incarcerated individuals do not have a GED or a high school diploma. So our attention is, how do we help, how do we serve our incarcerated residents to make sure that they can achieve certain level of education to potentially, be more employable when the time comes. So we're looking into how do we zoom in into the support we need, how do we meet them where they need to be met, right? So we're thinking about pulsing our own people, making sure that we consult with them what could be helpful to you, right? We do have the technology, we do have the know-how. We have an excellent team that, the district number one, right, with tons of I could say resources in terms of know-how, how to educate, but still there is a bridge to be built, right? Inviting and enticing incarcerated people to get educated, right?
And that is a huge opportunity for our state, because we are in a state that has 90,000 jobs that are open. right? Employers need them. And I was talking to one of our very large defense manufacturers and said, what do you need? And the first thing he said was people. And so I said, so where are they coming from? Because here we are in state government. We need people too. By the way, if you want a job in state government, check out our Department of Administrative Services website. There are lots and lots of jobs available, but we are competing with the private sector. And so this top executive of one of our defense manufacturers said there are two areas that we are looking at right now. One is people coming out of the correction system, and the second is people who are new to our country. So we have a huge opportunity because in our state, 1 in 10 of us are from some other country, right? And in the correction system, the challenge is that you gave the statistic of 57% with no GED. Well, a lot of the people who are in the correction system, unfortunately, have learning disabilities. People who probably should have been focused on when they were at the very beginning of their education, right? Maybe they needed special education. Maybe they had dyslexia. There's a huge number of people in the prison system that have dyslexia. Folks with mental health and substance abuse. I mean, there's a lot, right? But that is a huge opportunity for our state to have people coming out of incarceration with education and productive skills.
And Lieutenant Governor, I wish we have more time because this is so exciting as I'm talking to different agencies. Early education, right? And focusing on early childhood and all the work that you have done with the governor just to make sure that we have I could say the resources we need, right? And if we are to zoom in into those plans, there is a lot of effort. This particular agency is looking into making sure we identify those children, knowing that the early age in humans determine, right, your ability to continue learning, right? And making sure that, again, from a service provider perspective, in partnership with pediatricians and different NGOs, we identify those kids and we provide, the need that they deserve.
And and I'm glad you mentioned early childhood. So at our next full council meeting, I do think we should have a presentation on our early childhood foundation from Commissioner Bai, because it will be transformative, because we will be able to identify and assist our 4 and 5-year-olds with whatever attention they need in a high quality early childhood education program, because those reduce the need for special education by 60%. So all of these initiatives are related, but I keep talking about opportunity because I think opportunity is bigger than what most of us probably went into this meeting thinking about.
Yes, yes, and as I say, it's the co-creation really, and the goodness of the state and the brilliancy of the staff, I have to say. I could be remiss not to mention additional examples, but I can tell you every single agency, I'm looking at the commissioner here with a very important plan that she envisioned for her team. For example, thinking about that service provider, making sure we have a stability as we serve our families and children, making sure we take care of our people, right? And creating a support, way of making sure that people is retained in the agency, right? There is possibly, yes.
Yeah, so happy to talk about our two goals. One of which you just mentioned. I have the saying that it's important to take care of the people who take care of the people. So that when you think about your employers, you have to make sure that they have what they need in order to pour into the lives of kids and families. And so, at DCF, we had a turnover rate that had been really increasing. And so really thinking about what we need to do to look at their work-life balance, make sure that we're being attentive to them so that we can retain staff, because as we retain our employees, it creates stability for the families that we serve. The other piece has to do with the service provision and making sure that the service providers, as they're providing the service, so we pay a lot of providers monies to provide services to kids and families in the community. Well, we wanted to make sure that there was representation of the service providers of the families that they're serving. So do they serve in the family's language? Are they culturally responsive to the needs of the families? And so we have standards that we have created to make sure that our service providers are adhering to that. So it's inside outside. And I just, while I have the mic just for a second, I'll tell you just a quick story that I was always one of those people. I'm born and raised in Connecticut. It's the only state I've ever lived in. And I always wanted to live in DC. That's what I wanted to do. I want to go to DC. I want to go to Baltimore. I want to live somewhere else. And when I tell you, I have never been more proud to reside in the state of Connecticut than I am right now, because of projects like this and because of the things that we're doing, because it truly is becoming that place where, or is that place now, where it is a place where you can grow and thrive. And so I appreciate the presentation and all the work that's done to make Connecticut an attractive place to live and work.
Thank you, Commissioner. We can go on and on with examples. There's questions? Yes? Yes.
If this is on. I was wondering, when you were saying that the people who are incarcerated and the rape and stuff like that, a lot of times our incarcerated people come out and they can't get jobs. Is
Exactly.
there a program which you're working with the trades, because the trades are in need of people in education? I can't imagine them not willing to actually try to get someone to come in to actually facilitate these people into being able to be employed with them.
Yes.
And so hopefully there's a program that you can work with them, because if not, you can also ask the AFL-CIO, because they do a lot with the trades also.
Yeah, and I will be looking to really talk with you just to explore that further. But one of the reasons that we're looking into what people will not, you're incarcerated and you may not be interested in pursuing further education. Well, you have to wonder what's for if I don't have that opportunity after all, right? And so it has been identified as one of the drivers of motivations, right? And so we certainly, are exploring personally with some of the potential employers, right? And we do have the Clean Act in the States, yet there is the stigma, right? And it takes really, quite frankly, people need to give a second chance, basically, right? And we do have, and I'm proud to say, I mean, I was able to identify some of our colleagues that are, former incarcerated members, right? That are thriving program managers within the state. So we're certainly looking into what is next. And I will be more than happy to connect with you to figure, on top of the education layer, how do we amplify, right, the opportunity that truly will make the difference in society. Yes. Thank you.
And I'll also just say that many cities like Hartford and New Haven have programs so that when people come out of the incarceration system, they have a welcome center to get them
Yes.
transportation, job training, housing, all of those things. But
Susan,
let's go. Sorry, I was going to say we have maybe.
sorry,
Go ahead.
for manufacturing, a GED is required. There are plenty of programs, both locally and with the community college, but all of the trades, that's the bare minimum. The prisons are doing a great job with some of their new initiatives right now, and they've got some brand new ones that we're working with. But we can't manage a high school, and some of them who have graduated from high school, but it has been years in a system that failed them in terms of their knowing basic math. and comprehension. So there's also a lot of remedial work that could be done while during the period of incarceration and prior to their exit.
Mhm. Thank you for that comment. And you're
That's Lindy Lee Gold of our Department of Economic and Community Development. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, excellent comment. And in fact, our school district 1, right, is ready to start, reaching out to the people, right? And we're studying this pilot in two facilities that have full access to internet, because we also have to account for, the needs of access to digital, right? And that is one of the things that they propose to do, truly getting into the assessment domain, just to make sure that we meet people with people needs to be met, right? Not, again, as you mentioned, you may have been out of the education system for a long time, right? And even though you may have achieved a particular grade, you may not even remember, and we have to do some catch up. So that is part of the plan that our correctional facilities and our Department of Corrections planning to implement in two facilities as we speak.
So why don't we have some questions? We'll see if anybody on Zoom has a question. Anyone, Tracy, that we have on Zoom?
While we're waiting on questions, Leslie Marr from CSCU said Connecticut State Colleges and Universities has education programs in partnership with DOC and would love to explore that further.
Excellent. And I'd also highly recommend the building trades and the NAACP. They have all kinds of programs as well. All right. Any other questions from the room? Okay. All right, Mariana, anything else?
I think we're good to go. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for
Oh, thank you.
presenting. We
Thank you.
appreciate you. And what we're going to do is turn to subcommittee reports and updates. So if we have any of our subcommittee chairs or designees, if anyone has a report to share. Yes.
Yes, sure. I'm happy to provide one. I'm Elisa Nada from the Office of Health Strategy. I'm Mariana. Nice to meet you in person. And we at OHS tri-chair the Health and Safety Subcommittee, along with the Office of Early Childhood and the Department of Public Health. So we have had the opportunity to meet twice with our subcommittee members and really focusing on highlighting ways that the state is working to improve maternal and infant health. And so earlier this year, we had OEC present on a program that they have at the York Correctional Institution, where they are delivering doula services, prenatal and postpartum education, birth support, lactation assistance, and connections to community services for women in that facility. Last year, they had about 100 individuals who are part of this program. And it was really great to highlight this program. We have a very diverse group of stakeholders in our health and safety subcommittee. So it was really great for folks who hadn't known that this is a resource of the state. There was a lot of questions about this particular program. And then today's Tuesday, so just yesterday, we had our second meeting of the year. And we focused, to your point, Lieutenant Governor, about having OEC, Commissioner Bai, come in. We did focus the meeting on the early childhood education endowment and all of the work that really comes from that blue ribbon panel that the governor put together with OEC. And so the commissioner was able to walk through some of the highlights of the Education Endowment Fund and what are the plans to increase access for childcare for working families. And we also highlighted dollars that are available in the fiscal year 26 budget to support our Family Bridge program, which for those of you who don't know what that program is about, it is a pilot program in Connecticut offering nurse visiting to moms and babies after they've delivered.
Yeah, that's in the Bridgeport area.
Yes, and
Correct,
just
yep.
earlier this year, it was expanded in Eastern Connecticut. So we're really excited about that work. We at OHS are tasked with the evaluation of the pilots. So we will be working on a program evaluation as well as thinking about sustainability and expansion options for that program. So that is our report. Thank you.
Great. Any other subcommittee reports? Do you see any, Tracy? All right, and I will say that our leadership subcommittee just hosted a fabulous panel on women in transportation at the Department of Transportation. They hosted, we had women in aviation, in the aviation part of transportation. We had women in project management and the legal fields, and also in engineering. Very, very interesting women from all different professional backgrounds, and they shared how they got into transportation. I always like to focus our leadership subcommittees on, our leadership panels on, there we are, on places where women are underrepresented. So we've done women in the building trades, we have done women in law enforcement, women in the fire service. We had a fabulous panel on Indigenous women leaders who are tribal leaders in Connecticut. So we are constantly looking for areas to highlight fabulous female leaders in Connecticut, in areas where women are underrepresented. So if you have any ideas about a field to focus on so we can have a future panel on it, please let us know, as we are in the process of planning more of these panels going forward. All right. So what I do want to highlight is that we were made aware of the fact that Paul Lavoie, our former chief manufacturing officer, we have our chief opportunity officer with us, our chief manufacturing officer, and chair of our education and STEAM subcommittee, will be leaving us on July 24th and joining the University of New Haven as its first Vice President of Innovation and Applied Technologies. He's done some really great work. COAG and our Department of Economic and Community Development, the governor and I have been able to work with him on manufacturing initiatives. He's been really fabulous and laser focused on helping women enter into the manufacturing field. That is a STEM field, and it is a highly paying one. So we're looking forward to whoever our future leader of our Connecticut manufacturing space is, and they will be part of this committee. But we wish Paul well, and we thank him for all the great work that he's done for Connecticut. All right. So I'm now going to give you the dates for our council meetings for the rest of 2025. So our next full council meeting is scheduled for October 14th at 3 p.m. in this room and on Zoom. Our leadership subcommittee is scheduled to meet a week from today on July 8th at 3 p.m. on Teams. Please join us. If you have ideas for women in non-traditional areas, please let us know. Also, our Economic Opportunity and Workforce Equity Subcommittee is scheduled to meet on August 12th at 3 p.m. on Teams, and our Education and STEAM Subcommittee is scheduled to meet on August 26th at 3 p.m. on Teams. And finally, our Health and Safety Subcommittee is scheduled to meet on September 2nd at 10 a.m. on Teams. So if you would like an invitation to any of these subcommittee meetings, please indicate that by sending an email to my general counsel, Tracy Apuku, who's right over there. Her information is in the chat. Also, many of the agencies and organizations that are part of this group run incredible events that impact women and girls in our state. So if there are any events that you would like to share with our numerous list of organizations and agencies, please let Tracy know or let the subcommittee in that space know so that we can get that around. So I'll ask if we have any announcements. I am not seeing any in the room. Tracy, are you seeing any in the chat?
No other announcements, but there is one newcomer who would like to introduce herself.
Fabulous.
Ashley, you can introduce yourself at this time.
Where did Ashley go?
Ashley's here. She's just trying to figure out how to get
Unmute.
her computer system working. She's put her hand up 1 minute.
Hello.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi. Sorry, I could not find the mute button. It was tucked away in the corner behind my second screen. Good afternoon. I am a newcomer. This is my first attendance at one of these meetings. My name is Ashley Biggs, and I am the Director of Programs and Standards at the Connecticut Alliance to End Sexual Violence. And I've been doing this work for 14 years and counting.
Great. Thank you. Welcome. Appreciate your participation. All right. And I'll just ask Commissioner Hill Lilly if she has any comments before we end the meeting. Sorry, that's very scratchy.
It is. I just want to thank everybody for coming. I especially appreciate the presentation, just and all the work that we're all doing, and very proud, as I said before, to live in the state of Connecticut. And I look forward to seeing you all at the next meeting, and I hope you have a great summer.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And speaking of presentations, we have so many wonderful programs going on across state government that impact women and girls. So as I mentioned, we will be hearing from our OEC Commissioner, Beth Bai, next time. I guess she's going to find out that she'll be presenting on our early childhood education endowment. And we would love, though, to hear from more about more programs or other subject matter areas. So please, if you have ideas, again, for leadership panels or for presentations to our committee, we would very much appreciate that. And we thank you all so much for joining, and we'll see you next time. And we always try to make our meetings an hour or less. And because we are mainly efficient women, we get the job done. So thank you.
Good job.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.